We go. Mhm. Hello, hello, everyone. God bless. This is Yvonne Perkins for His Glory Standing in the Gap Ministry. This is the last of a series that I'm doing regarding the process of grief. Grief is something that we all experience, but we do not talk about, and we don't often understand the feelings, the emotions that are going with that. And so I'm going to encourage you to take a look at my other videos as we talk about the 5 steps of grief. We talk about it being, hold on just a quick second here. Alrighty. Okay. We talk about the journey. We talk about when you first hear about a loved one leaving, that you're in denial. You're saying this cannot be happening. It's not real. Talk about the anger. Why me? Why now? This is unfair. I don't deserve this. Bargaining is the stage where you talk about, if I had only done this, I wish I had. Depression, whether you're a believer or not, we all will experience being hurt, sad, and lonely. Being a believer does not exempt us from going through these steps. And then acceptance. That means you get to the place where you say, I can't change it. I must go on. Right? And so these are hard things to talk about. And one of the other things that we don't talk about that we need to talk about, and that is having life insurance, and that is also pre-planning. So I have with me Tara from Southwest Funeral Home, and she's going to be presenting. We're going to be very brief here. And I have Mr. Ken Moore from Farmers Insurance. I'm going to put their information in the chat while Tara begins to talk with us about pre-planning. So, Tara, what is the purpose of pre-planning for service?
To eliminate, ultimately to eliminate double grief. Double grief is something that I refer to. I am Tyra Watts, and I'm a funeral director and embalmer here at Southwest Funeral Home, and I'm also an insurance agent. So I'm looking at both ends of the spectrums when I'm trying to help a family. And one of the biggest things that we see to be an issue that really causes heartbreak, heartbreak because you can't have the type of service that you want, heartbreak so much so that that could be that you even have to leave your loved one at the county morgue because you really can't come up with even the bare minimum, and heartbreak because when we talk about even the 5 stages of grief, because you're angry because your family member put you into this position, and it
Yeah.
causes double grief because you've lost that person, and then financial grief. So what pre-planning will do, a couple different things. Pre-planning, pre-arrangement is similar to the at need arrangement. So at need is exactly what it sounds like, right? That it's at that time that things happen, that you have a need, and at that time then we make the arrangement. A
Mm.
pre-arrangement, like pre means before.
Yes.
So going to make the arrangements before the need comes. One of the things that that will do is it will allow you to control the cost of the funeral.
Mhm.
Um, so going into that respect of things, everything uh, in this world, due to inflation, even this year, 2022, we're looking at the cost of things going up even so much by the week. So prearrangement with the funeral home will allow you to lock in that price at that time that you make that arrangement. So regardless of if they raise their prices the next week from the time you make the arrangement, you made the arrangement on the 17th of December, and whatever the prices were the 17th of December 2021, that will still be the price in most cases for your funeral provider. So
Yeah.
it locks in the cost of the funeral service or whatever the service is, because cremation, we don't want to eliminate that. As being an option for families. So whether you're going to do a funeral service with cremation, or if you just want to do direct cremation or funeral burial traditional service, if you will, it'll lock in the price at the time that you make it.
Mm.
And so, with the exception of vendors, okay, this is locking in your funeral home price without the vendors, but that is the bulk of your cost is the funeral home. So
Yeah.
you can lock that price in so that we can avoid having to, even for those that have insurance, you can have $100,000 policy. But if you can lock in a funeral service for $7,000, that will allow your family to keep 93, so it doesn't matter if you have insurance or not, it's still about being cost effective.
Yes.
And so that is a smart thing for families to remember, for people to know that you want to be cost effective, whether you have insurance or not. So when you make a pre-arrangement and you lock in that price, then it's going to help control the cost.
Mm-hmm.
Another bit to pre-arrangement is that you are in control of what services you want. We talked
Exactly. It's your
yeah,
thing. You can plan it the way you want it.
absolutely. And
Mm-hmm.
they always say that death changes people, and death really brings out sometimes the worst in families because of the decision making process.
Yes.
Um, my sister wants this, my brother wants that, and everybody's trying to figure out and speak for what mom would want.
Mm-hmm.
Or husband wants this, but his children from his previous marriage, they want that. Everybody's trying to say what that husband would want. But
It's
when you
easy
sit
to
down,
see how the confusion would come in and how being emotional at that time, and the emotions are real and they're wrong, how that can affect the decision making.
it
Yes.
does. It
Mm-hmm.
really does. And it can tear families apart.
Mm-hmm.
uh, Many families that we talk to in the interim, and they're like, me and my sister haven't been the same since.
Mm.
Really tears apart families. So this will help you to eliminate um, your family having to make decisions for you, even so much as them trying to make those decisions can cause a break in the chains of that family unit because people are so indifferent. So if they know that mama said, if they know that daddy said, if they know that the husband said or the wife said that this is what I want, then it
Yes.
helps everybody not to have to make any decisions at that point. So
Mm-hmm.
when I in and I say that I want a simple service, I want a simple casket, I want, simple. As a matter of fact, I don't want any flowers, you
Mm.
know, or I want all the flowers,
Yes.
you know, I want it to be pink. I want everything to be pink, or I want everything to be black. It eliminates the family saying, well, mom wouldn't want that. Well, mom made those arrangements
Right.
and did it at a cost effective price. And
Right.
so it allows you at that time when you should have to call that provider, which is also like a benefit of, you can kind of put it in the realm of when you have an insurance company, whether life insurance, car insurance, if something happens, you pick up the phone, you call that insurance provider and you say, I need to redeem my policy. This is the issue. And it's the same way with the funeral home. When death should occur, then all you have to do is pick up the phone and call that funeral home and say, well, mom has passed away now. We can pull the file. All the paperwork is already done because when we do the pre-arrangement, we're going to go through all the steps that we would in the arrangement process. And then we're going to create the file. We're going to have the record, whether it's 5 years or 10 years or 30 years. We have the record. We pull the record and we can then make sure that we carry out the services and the family doesn't have to do anything at that point.
Mm.
In some cases, people do choose their clothing, and of course, if it's 30 years later, maybe it might be a different style, but that's an easy decision for a family to make what
Yes.
this person is going to wear, opposed to having to go through the business
Mm-hmm.
of doing the arrangement. It
Mm-hmm.
also will allow you um, to say, at that time, my family can just grieve. They
Yes.
don't have to take care of any
Don't
business.
have to deal with all of the business in.
It's done. It's done. You pick up the phone, you call your funeral provider. We come, and at that point, we take your loved one into our care. We set those right.
Go ahead.
Uh-huh. But we come take your loved one our care at that point. And what comfort is that for a family to have to know all they have to do is pick up the phone? Even the fact of making the decision of what funeral home to go to. Sometimes that's the
Yeah,
problem for the
it
you
is because sometimes you got one place and somebody else have somebody else, but I like this company, Right.
it takes all of that off the table. You make that phone call. Why? Because we know that this is where mom wanted to go. And then, we take control of the services at that point. And then the family doesn't have to do anything but just start to process their loss, start to deal with the emotions that are going to come with the loss, and really just bond together as a family unit to support each other in their loss. No business to be handled. Everything is taken care of. Sure, you're going to make a few phone calls at that point, but those phone calls are just to activate those that are going to be part of what was in the contract, to do their service for your loved one. And it just makes everything much easier, and it takes the grief and the burden of the finances, because even with some prearrangements, and this is good to know, with some prearrangements, some people have paid it out of their pocket. They didn't use any insurance at all. Some
Mm,
people have paid $20 or $50 a month, for 10 years or however long it took them, and they paid it out of their pocket, like a layaway, if you will. And there is no financial burden, and so it really makes it easy at that point to just grieve.
yes, yes. That
So
that
pretty
that is really good
benefit.
information, really helpful information. Tell me this. So don't laugh at me.
I
Um,
won't.
but when my husband passed, it's been said 7 months ago, and when we was making the arrangements, they had in our making arrangements to buy up, to do the plots and everything. They had a sale on the plots,
Hmm.
on the opening, the closing, the burial, and everything. And I think it was like a 20% off. So
That's
I
good.
took advantage of that. I bought 4 plots, you know,
That's good.
you
That's
know.
good.
So with the pre-planning, are there are they ever in any sales on those? Are there any
It
encouragement
just,
incentives?
it just depends. With funeral homes, your major incentive is that you're locking in their current price.
Okay.
With COVID, we before COVID, we're very reasonably priced funeral home, but our service stands toe to toe with every funeral home that charges 3, 4 times as much as we do.
Mm.
And at the start of COVID, my mom started Southwest Funeral Home here. And at the start of COVID, our packages, base funeral package was $39.95,
Okay.
because we did not, a lot of funeral homes not knowing what the whole situation was going to be, but understanding the transmission, understanding that it was fatal, understanding that as funeral directors and embalmers, that there was grave risk, possibly without having any type of research or any type of scientific based
Hmm.
evidence to what happens with the virus and death. A lot of funeral homes
Yes.
decided to close their doors until it was figured, but we kept operating. But at that point, we hadn't had a price increase in a while. But in order for us to keep operating at that point during COVID, we needed to provide masks to people. We needed to provide hand sanitizer and create, set up hand sanitizer stations. We
Right.
need to take on additional measures to protect ourselves in the prep room and in handling these bodies. And so to help us with those costs, we had to raise our prices just
Hmm.
like, and so you don't know when a funeral home is going to have to raise their prices. So the
Yes.
major incentive is that regardless of when they, if they, and how they raise their price, is that you got a discount, because we have to raise our prices. It's just
Right.
the cost of doing business. But your incentive is that you get whatever our old price was. So for people that locked in a service with us on a pre-arrangement for $39.95 pre-COVID, right now, regardless of what our prices are, when they walk in our door and we pull that file, we're still going to honor that full funeral package for $39.95.
Okay.
And so that is your major incentive. When it comes to cemeteries, I can't say because I don't work at the cemetery,
Mhm.
but the cemeteries is almost kind of the same thing. It's really just the benefit of locking in the price, even though when death should come, there is always the opportunity to add on. As you say, they're the upgrades, but
Yeah.
you know, going in that this is the base of what was created. If you don't add anything else on, you don't have to. But
All
if
right.
you do add on, then you know whatever packages or whatever advantages come to that particular time frame, you can always tap into that. But
Mhm.
definitely the major incentive is that you're going to lock in that price, especially if death is 5 and 10 years later. Like right now, we just had another increase for the start of 2022. But once again, you know, every year you can minimal expect a funeral home to go up. So we
Mhm.
expect you all to have long life. We want you all to have long life. We want
Yes.
healthy life, and we want to not see you for, yes, 20, 30 years. And 20, 30 years from now, even 10 years from now, the cost of funerals are going to be probably twice as high as they are right now.
Mm. Okay. And
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 that'll be for a base package.
okay.
Then
And
if
so
you're then definitely you're talking about right now, if you're burying plus funeral service, you're talking about an additional, on average, between $4,000 and $7,000, depending on the cemetery, plus your
mm,
funeral. So you
okay.
want to look in today's prices. That's the best way to do it.
That's the best way. One more question. We're gonna go to Mr. Moore.
Sure.
So what is that average price running for the a very basic? I hear you talking about 3,900. Is that the average price? Is that like
No,
the basic price for service?
not at all. About
Okay.
maybe around 2010.
Mm.
But
Okay.
we believe in being reasonable. Our motto here is it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. We
Mm.
try to help our families. Every funeral home has the ability to price themselves the way that they need to price themselves in
Okay.
order to maintain their cost of doing business.
Mm-hmm.
That is where the base price of a funeral starts. What that funeral home has calculated is the necessity for them to continue to operate and pay their bills, is how they come up with their base price.
Okay.
The average cost of a funeral at this point, a decent funeral is going to be somewhere between $7,000 to $10,000. At funeral homes that are a little more costly, your average funeral is going to be between $9,000 and $11,000.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a funeral home that's moderately priced is going to be somewhere between $6,000 and $8,000.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. A lot of good information for people to start thinking about. Again, we don't normally want to think about death. There's nothing pleasant about it. But to be practical about this is something that we all will experience at some point, you
Mhm.
know, and to be proactive about
Yeah.
it, to take off the stress off of the family, you know,
Mhm.
the bickering, the decision making, the pain, you know, to have everything. And like you said, some cases you can plan it down to this color suit, this color dress, you know, this casket, you know, and you can have everything in place. You are actually really doing your family a great service.
Yes.
Move that part of the burden off of them, you know, and they don't have to second guess what you want. They know what it
Ex-
is that you want. One more question. We have to go
Sure.
on to Mr. Moore, and that is, all right. So you come in, you make the plans, you know what you want, but now you gone.
Mhm.
Who do you have to designate somebody to sort of oversee or, you know, to do anything else?
No, you don't. That would speak to, in that way, when you look at the bigger picture of estate planning,
Uh-huh.
that would speak to, in general, your wishes
Mm-hmm.
and your want
Okay.
for everything. So when it comes to that, you would really want to speak with your attorney so that you have, yes, designated a person who's going to be responsible for your affairs, whether you
Okay.
put a power of attorney in place. One thing to make sure that you understand is that when you pass away, your power of attorney for that person also diminishes at that
Yes.
point unless you have specific language, a special power of attorney that extends in death. Then our job as funeral directors is to identify who the next of kin is at that time. Because of course, you know, we don't expect death, but we know it's coming. And again, we want long life. So the next of kin right now may not be the closest or the legal next of kin at the time of death. So what we're going to do at that time is identify who the next of kin is at that time. And that'll be the person that we're primarily concerned with talking to. But as it regards your affairs in general, which it can include those decisions about your funeral, those things should be done with regard to creating a power of attorney and estate planning and making sure that those affairs are in order.
Okay, okay.
No problem.
All right, all right. You know what? I have run. Let's see how we're gonna do this. Okay, all right. Tyra, thank you.
Well, I
Something has just come. Hmm?
so doing a pre-arrangement, that's an act of love.
Okay.
So that's what it is, you guys. It's an act of love. We love our families and our families love us. To do that is an act of love. It's the last act of love that you can display and leave them with. And as well, just like we plan to live, even though, as she stated, we don't want to talk about it. But just like we plan to live and we plan our work day and our weekends and our vacations, we plan to live, we also have to plan to die. So it's critical. It's an act of love.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So that is Tyra Watson. Uh, that number is 773-424-3151. I know she has to leave. We're going to quickly bring Mr. Ken Moore in. This has been, different thing that's been popping up. So I'm going to have a situation I'm going to have to deal with. So, Mr. Moore, all right, Mr. Moore is from Farmers Insurance. He's been my insurance agent for over 30 years. And excellent service. I highly, highly recommend Farmers Insurance, in particular, Mr. Ken Moore. And his number, I'm just going to give you right off the bat, 847-577-2700. So, Mr. Moore, quickly tell us the difference between the whole life insurance and the term life insurance, right?
Well, I'm going to do that in a moment. I just want to stress and just confirm what Tyra was talking about, because it's all very, very important. I think that the point of the whole afternoon here would be just to make sure that there's planning involved and there's no surprises. Everyone is going to pass on at one point in time. And the question is, what happens when that event occurs? So it should be pre-planned, and I try to stress that we have a pre-planning guide that our insured completes, that spells out very briefly and very inexpensively who's going to be in charge, what they can expect, and the insured can put down and write down their wishes at that point in time.
Mm.
So usually with life insurance, a beneficiary is designated, and that beneficiary is the one that's going to receive the proceeds for the final expense arrangements for that person. And that's the simplest way to do it. So one, the whole goal is to have no surprises, because it is difficult enough for survivors to deal with the grief. And
Yes.
so I'd recommend a pre-planning guide so there's no surprises. Now, with that said, if a decision is made about life insurance, what is the best type of life insurance to have? And in the context of what we're talking about, whole life insurance is the best idea because it never expires.
Yes.
So whole life insurance differs from term insurance in two ways. For one, it never expires.
Okay.
And as long as you keep making your premium payment, it also provides some cash value in addition to the death benefit, which could be a source of funds for future needs. Besides the final expense for burial costs, sometimes people who pass on leave some debt as well. So the question was how much life insurance does one person need? It does vary, but essentially for final expenses, I generally recommend about $15,000.
Okay.
If someone decides that they want to be cremated, for example, then those arrangements are taken care of automatically. And so it's pretty easy to plan how much money is needed. And that way there's no surprise. It's taken care of, and that stress is taken off of the survivors.
Yes.
So whole life insurance is the best way to do it. I just want to draw a distinction between whole life insurance and term insurance. So term insurance is exactly what it says. It's the easiest to understand, and in a lot of ways, maybe it's the most misunderstood. It's less expensive because it lasts, and it's very straightforward. It lasts for a certain number of years. And that simply means that the premium is going to stay level for 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. And at the end of that period of time, the plan ends. So in the context of what we're talking about, whole life insurance is the best way to go. It's guaranteed. The cash value is guaranteed. The premiums are guaranteed. Once the policy is in effect, it can't be canceled because of age or health. The benefits never decrease and the rates don't increase. So there's a lot easier to plan that way. And again, this is the way to have no surprises when someone passes on. So I think in the context of what we're talking about, the difference between term insurance is term insurance will expire. Whole life insurance will never expire. Term insurance may not be there when the person passes on, but whole life insurance, as long as the premiums are paid, will be there, and it's guaranteed to be that way.
Right.
So it's really, I would encourage people to, one, do some pre-planning, decide what's going to happen when they pass on, who they want to handle their affairs and final expenses, and generally that person should be the beneficiary of the life insurance. It could be one or two, or it could be more than one person as a beneficiary, but it's best if there's just one beneficiary who could be trusted to make the arrangements for a funeral and burial, and that way it takes a lot of stress off that everybody. And this happens with people, and my people buy life insurance even as late as age 84 or 85. And it's sad that people wait that long because it becomes very expensive, but it is even doable at that age. Obviously, the best time to buy life insurance is the earliest point where you can make that decision and have it affordable and have the support of the people who are your beneficiaries. So again, I suggest a pre-planning guide, and if there's ever a situation where someone wants to talk about what those costs would be, how much the insurance part of it would be, I'd be happy to share that information with anybody that calls. And it does depend on one's age, whether they're smokers or non-smokers, what their health conditions are. All those may be very uh, variable issues. But I will say that uh, we can pretty much help anyone who needs the coverage as long as they're under age 85. And so I'd certainly be happy to talk to anybody who has some interest and get some information to them about pricing. So again, the most important part is not to have any surprise. And you won't have any surprises if you do it prior to somebody dying. There won't be any surprises from that standpoint. You know what happens, how much is paid to the beneficiary, and with the planning guide, that individual has said, I want to be buried here. I want this type of a funeral. I want this person to handle it for me. And the only thing that we have to do is complete a claim form and have the proceeds paid to a beneficiary, and it's done.
Okay, okay. Very good information that we need to know. Real plain and simple, nothing complicated. You got whole life, you got term life. Whole life is best because it's going to accumulate value. It's going to be there. The price is not going to change. With term, you miss a payment, that's it. That's gone. You get nothing. Yeah. Okay. All right. And Mr. Moore is very much a reachable. I called him. He calls right back. He's very knowledgeable. Once again, his number is 847-577-2700. That's Ken. The last name is spelled More. Wonderful service.
Let me interrupt. Really, the best way to reach me is call me on my cell phone.
Okay.
And my cell phone number is 847-561-2699. And if I don't pick up, by all means, please leave a message with your name and phone number, and I will always get to it.
Okay. All right. Again, that number, 847-561-2699 is his cell number. All right. I have a lot of confidence in both of these people that's represented here. We've used, my family has used Southwest. And I tell you, on one occasion, my mom was deceased for about 3 weeks, and we were concerned because we wanted our pastor to be the speaker. And we were concerned about, okay, how is she going to look being out that long? But they did such a wonderful job. It's the first time I heard people say she's beautiful. That's the first time I heard someone say about a corpse that they are beautiful. And they did such an excellent, wonderful job. So they come highly recommended, and like I said, Ken Moore with Farmers Insurance. I've had, and they probably don't want me to say this in the advertising, but I've had 2 fires. I've had 2 floods. They did not go up on the price. Neither did they cancel me. So I saw all the time. I would do an advertisement for Farmers Insurance, because you get some other insurance. I'm not gonna name them, but you have to use them one time, and that's it. Either the price is going up or they drop you.
Yeah.
Right? Did y'all hear me? 2 separate fires, 2 separate incidents of flooding. And I tell you, this insurance company came through for me. All right, that's it. That's the advertisement. I thank you all for being here, for listening. You were saying something, Terry?
Thank you for having us.
Oh, yes. We just want to help the people and get the information out there. Information is knowledge. Knowledge is power. And so I certainly appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule, juggling everything to try to get this done. So be blessed. Have an awesome day. And I will be able to send you a link to this in a little while. All right. And then I'm going to post it on Facebook as well. Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
Good night. Have a blessed one, you all.
Good night.
You
Okay.
be well. All right.
Thank
goodbye.
you for meeting
Thank
you.
you. All
All
right.
right.
Bye-bye.